Welcome into another episode of the Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. I'm Ashley Wenskoski. I am joined tonight by our very special guest, Intern Dan, is making an appearance on the show. Sam was unavailable this evening, but we still wanted to bring some content and some coverage to you guys because the Los Angeles Dodgers have tied up the World Series at 1-1. They win game 2 in Toronto by a score of 5-1, and Yoshinobu Yamamoto pitches an absolute masterclass gem. First of all, Dan, hi. I know a lot of our audience probably hasn't seen you yet, so I just want to hear your takeaways on game 2 here of the World Series.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be here. Thank you for having me as always, Ashley. And I think the biggest thing to take away from this game is that Yoshinobu Yamamoto just absolutely dominated. He allowed the one run, but Yoshinobu Yamamoto was almost flawless this entire game. He only threw about 100 pitches, and the greatest thing that I noticed especially was that it was a lot of ground ball outs from Yamamoto. He did a great job at limiting the Blue Jays, this team that's just their entire MO this entire postseason has been getting a lot of hits and working pitch counts. Getting those quick outs has been really impressive and very hard to do against this Blue Jays team, and he did that without any trouble tonight.
Yeah, Yamamoto, obviously the story, the big reason for this win for the Dodgers, but let's just rewind a little bit for a second before we get deeper into the masterclass that Yamamoto put on. So this was a classic baseball, beautiful pitchers duel all the way through, right? Kevin Gausman for the Blue Jays also went out there and threw a gem. The Dodgers did score first in this game. It was Freddie Freeman with the extra base hit, so they got a run on the board. But then Yamamoto was working in and out of some traffic in the earlier innings, right? He put runners on first and third with no outs in the bottom of the first. And you kind of saw the Blue Jays come in with a strategy like to stay patient, right? To make him pitch to them. They did that. They made Yamamoto pitch. And obviously that didn't really pan out in the way that the Blue Jays would have liked. Gausman was great as well. At one point, he had 10 straight outs. But then you saw the wheels fall off the bus of the pitcher's duel, and you saw Gausman let up the Smith solo home run, his first extra base hit of the postseason, in the bottom of the seventh, and then you saw Max Muncy with that second solo shot that kind of started to get the wheels turning for the Dodgers offense. What did you think of Gausman's performance and of the Dodgers breaking out offensively late in the game?
Yeah, I mean, Gausman was great as well too, and it's unfortunate in a game like this, both pitchers are absolutely shoving. It just comes down to who makes the first mistake, right? And in this instance, it turned out to be Gausman just leaving one fastball over the middle that Will Smith was able to turn on, and then Max Muncy followed it up. But Kevin Gausman didn't pitch bad at all. He was impressing. So was Yoshinobu Yamamoto. They were going back and forth. It really just came down to who made the first mistake, and unfortunately for the Blue Jays, it was Gausman tonight.
Yeah, I said he retired 10 in a row at one point. He also retired 17 in a row. So he really was dominant and he gave the Blue Jays a great chance to win this game. Unfortunately, you just didn't really see the Blue Jays offense show up against Yamamoto. I mean, Will Smith, that was the biggest hit so far of this postseason for the Dodgers, I think. Obviously, you can sit here and say that Muncy would have came through a few batters later to hit the solo shot, but I think the Dodgers lineup just really with that Will Smith home run finally found a spark that they hadn't found so far in Toronto.
This is the thing. The Dodgers 1 through 9, their lineup is in another stratosphere compared to the Blue Jays. From top to bottom, every single player in this lineup, from Shohei Ohtani to Andy Pajes in the 9 hole, can beat you in some way, shape, or form. So, the Blue Jays are already at a disadvantage. It was only a matter of time before these Dodgers hitters found some form. And when Will Smith is finally figuring it out in the 4 hole, and guys like Max Muncy in the 6 spot, then you're really in trouble because you know it's a matter of time before Ohtani, Betts, and Freeman figure it out. They've been fairly quiet to start the series so far, but you know they're going to figure it out, especially when they get back to LA. So if I'm a Blue Jays fan, I'm extremely concerned because this is a game that was extremely winnable for you guys, and this is a tough loss to take for sure.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Let's get into the stats and the numbers behind just how dominant Yamamoto was in this game because it's almost hard to fathom. 9 innings, 4 hits, obviously 1 run, no walks. I believe he finished with 9 strikeouts, just over 100 pitches. I looked up at one point in like the seventh inning and he had like 72 pitches. And I was like, this guy's going to go all the way. I mean, he was throwing strikes. He He was getting swings and misses. He was getting ground ball outs. He was efficient. He was effective. He, after the first few innings, really settled down and didn't allow any traffic on the base paths. And not only that, we know what his calling card is. It's those 6 pitches. His arsenal is so lethal, so dangerous. They asked the Dodgers catcher, Will Smith, on the postgame show. Alex Rodriguez asked him, he said, which pitch do you think was working the best for Yamamoto tonight? And Smith was almost like, all 6, but he was like really his splitter, his curveball. But the fact that it just can even be all 6 is outrageous.
I mean, there's a reason why Yoshinobu Yamamoto was one of the most highly touted prospects coming out of Japan. And the thing that really stood out to me in this game, looking at the stats, 20 first pitch strikes from Yamamoto. He was pounding the zone the entire day. And these Japanese pitchers, we saw it with Kodai Senga. We're Met fans. We got to throw it in here somewhere. We saw it his rookie year. Going back and forth between fastball splitter. For Senga, it's more fastball forkball. But balancing those 2 pitches can really throw an offense off. And he was just absolutely dominating. And like I mentioned earlier on this podcast, 11 ground ball outs and 8 fly ball outs. That's so impressive. And that's how you keep your pitch count down. And that's exactly what you're looking for. I mean, there's a reason why this is his second complete game of the postseason. Yoshinobu Yamamoto is a stud.
Yeah, the last pitcher to do that was Curt Schilling, which obviously goes without saying is elite company. I thought something interesting that won't be pointed out and won't be the flashy stat of Yamamoto's start was the broadcast showed, it compared his velocity tonight to his last few starts, and his velocity tonight was up. And just to think about that, right, the stamina that these guys have to go through, getting through the whole season, it is almost November. To go out there and throw 105 pitches tonight and have the velocity on your fastball up, the velocity on all of your pitches up. I mean, we saw him strike out George Springer with a fastball at the top of the zone in the 8th. He just blew it by him on like one of his 90th 100 pitches. It's so impressive, and to me, the rise in velocity shows that he rose to the moment. The environment and being in Toronto, being in the World Series, elevated him. That adrenaline affected him positively, which when you give the guy the largest contract ever signed by a major league pitcher in the offseason, that's exactly what you want him to do if you're the Dodgers.
Absolutely. And, it's the World Series. You got to rise your game up to the moment. And believe me, I went to game 6 in Toronto against the Mariners. That place gets loud. That place is an environment and a half. So getting into that environment, if you're Yoshinobu Yamamoto, as a road pitcher, is so nerve-wracking and so stressful for someone who's never experienced it. Sure, he's had some moments in Japan that have probably lived up to similar moments, but nothing like this. To go in there and just absolutely dominate and only do it in 105 pitches really just shows the kind of pitcher that Yamamoto is and shows what this Dodgers team is instilling in their pitchers.
Okay, pause on that for a second because I was unaware that you attended a game at Rogers Center this postseason. We are here in Syracuse, New York, upstate New York, so it is not too far away. Tell me about that experience for a minute, because I've seen all the stuff on TV, on the broadcast, and on social media about just how loud Rogers Center gets. Can you describe that environment, even though it wasn't the World Series?
It was insane. It was a lot of fun, especially as just a baseball fan getting the opportunity to do that. It's only a 4.5 hour drive from Syracuse. Crossing the border wasn't too fun, but one of my roommates is a huge Mariners fan. So we went to game 6 with the opportunity to see them clinch a World Series berth. So it was a lot of fun for me. Wasn't a whole lot of fun for my roommate, unfortunately.
Right.
But just the experience. I mean, Toronto fans, they love baseball, and you can tell it was so loud from the jump. And even that game 6 was very entertaining. Trey Savage was absolutely dealing in that game. Rogers Center is uncomparable to anything that I've ever experienced as a baseball fan, for sure.
I love that. That's some great perspective as we're talking about this. But yeah, I mean, Yamamoto, to wrap that up, he was unhittable tonight. He retired the final 20 he faced. I think if you are the Dodgers, this game tonight exemplified exactly what we've been saying all series long, all postseason long. When the starting pitching comes through, the Dodgers are damn near unbeatable. But that remains the question, right? You got Glass now going. You're probably going to see Snell again in the series. Yamamoto, of course, after tonight's performance. What do you think, about the Dodgers and their outlook moving forward with this starting pitching?
I'm going to make a bold prediction. I don't think the Blue Jays win another game in this series. Going back to LA, three straight games in LA, I think the Dodgers get it done because the Dodgers are just simply in another level compared to the Blue Jays. You look at the lineup from 1 to 9, it outcompares them 100%. The Blue Jays have had guys overperforming all postseason long. Obviously, Vlad Guerrero Jr. has been the best player in baseball this postseason. But aside from that, you have Springer, Bichette's back, Kirk's been okay. The rest of this lineup has been guys that are unproven, right? And you're kind of seeing that now, especially tonight. A lot of guys were really struggling against a pitcher like Yamamoto. Going to LA, I think the Dodgers, they've been in this position before. They obviously won the World Series last year. I think this Dodgers team is poised to really make a statement. But after the NLCS, they said, we really want to ruin baseball by winning another World Series and showing that the big markets are where it's at. And I really do think that the Dodgers are just in another level than the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays put up a good fight at home, of course. It's good for them that they took a game. But I really do think that once this series goes to LA, it's going to take a completely different turn.
I like the bold prediction. I am going to stick with what I said originally and say I still think the series goes back to Toronto, goes 6 or 7, because I think we've seen what the Blue Jays lineup can do in the event that the Dodgers bullpen has to come in. But that's not a guarantee, right? You have these starters that can go deep into games that know how to pitch to the moment, like Yamamoto did tonight. So I guess we'll see what happens. And if you're the Blue Jays, you're really, I hate to say hanging on to a hope, but you are, right? You're hoping that one of these starters has to falter in order for you to win one of these games, essentially. And when you look at who the Dodgers are trotting out there night after night, I don't know how likely that becomes. So the Dodgers take game 2, 5-1, like we said. Thanks so much for joining us for a quick little recap tonight. We will be back on Monday night after game 3 of this series, hopefully. But thank you so much to Dan for joining us tonight. Dan, anything else you want to say? Any other bold predictions or anything else on this World Series?
That's all I got, but I think it's going to be entertaining down the stretch. So this is what baseball is all about. This is what you play for.
This is what you play for, especially a night like tonight. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, please like, comment, subscribe. Why Am I a Mets Fan podcast. We will see you guys very soon. Dodgers fans, enjoy it tonight. Thanks for joining us.